we have a new battery. All right, guys, I couldn't pronounce the name on this one, so we're just gonna have to open it up. All right, so we got the manual, really generic. It's a 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour battery. It can be discharged at 1C, which would be 100 amps. Max charge current is 0.5C, which is 50 amps. It supports up to 4 batteries in series and up to 8 in parallel. And it is a Bluetooth battery. So this is their little Bluetooth manual. It has iOS and Android downloads. And there's the battery. So this is why I couldn't really pronounce the name, because the name appears to be just a bunch of letters. PUPVWMHB. I don't know how you can even begin to formulate a word out of that. So there it is. It's a PUPVWMHB battery. Now, first off, I can tell it's a pretty compact form factor. Looks a lot like the Reliabat case and size. So this looks almost exactly like that case from the Reliabat, and the size. And let's get a weight. It's pretty lightweight, actually. Feels pretty light. Look at that, 22.2 pounds. How about that? Let's compare that weight to the Power Queen Mini. And it's just slightly heavier than a Mini. The Mini comes out at 19.8. While we're at it, let's weigh this Cenarius that has the pouch cells in it. So the Cenarius comes out at 23.6. Now I'm curious of what Bluetooth app this will use. I'm gonna try the Shizang to see if maybe if it's a JBD. Is this? I think this is it. Let's put a charge on it to see if this does anything, because I've got so many of these batteries around that this may not be it, but I think this is it. Yeah, that's it. All right, so it just works with the JBD BMS app. So it's probably just a JBD BMS in here. That's awesome. I really like that because we're used to that BMS, and it works really good. And there's a lot of apps and things that will work with this BMS. I've even written some software that works for this BMS. All right, so we're just gonna let this charge up, and then I'll come back when it's complete and we'll do a capacity test. All right, so we have fully charged this battery. We can see the individual cell voltages are around 3.5 volts, with the highest being 3.546. Let's just restart the charge and see. I'm assuming this one's gonna peak out. It's gonna hit the high voltage disconnect here. But we are at 14.5 volts on the battery. And it looks like they've got this BMS set to allow a little bit higher voltage on the cells. All right, 3.72. So I wonder what they have that set to. We can actually check. They have it set to 3.75. I can't tell if the camera's picking that up. 3.75 is a little higher than your 3.65, but it's probably not too terrible. You could go into this app and change that if you wanted to, actually. All right, so now we're gonna do a capacity test. So I have the battery hooked up to the shunt and my inverter that is connected to the AC for the load. And this might be nitpicky a little bit, but I don't really like the bolts that they sent. Well, I guess the bolts are fine, but there's no washer. There's no washer or spring washer or anything like that. All right, anyways, let's turn on the inverter. Just turn on the AC. We'll just run this one at low. All right, we're pulling 46 watts. I think it's gonna come down. Yeah, it's definitely gonna come down. Or I'm sorry, amps, not watts. All right, looks like we're at 36 amps. All right, so I'm just gonna let that test run and I'll come back when it's complete. Alright guys, so this thing has pulled 100.75 amp hours, 1,293 watt hours. So it has completely passed the capacity test. We're gonna let it keep going to see how far it'll go. I did actually, in the middle of the test, I turned up the AC. So we were pulling around 80 amps at one point. I was just trying to hurry it up. All right, so the inverter has started to complain. So let's go ahead and turn this load off. Turn the inverter off. And our final capacity is 103.9 amp hours, so almost 104. 1,329 watt hours. Okay, so either these are getting easier to open, or I'm just becoming an expert at opening these things. This one was so easy to open. All right, let's take a look on the inside of this battery. All right, yeah, so we do have a JBD BMS. There is the Bluetooth dongle just glued to the top there. I see it says Giabadia. Also means that the low temp protection is going to work. They're just still bundled up here at the top. They weren't actually attached to the cells. We've got 7 gauge wires, which seems a little bit on the low side, on the small side. And then we've got prismatic cells that are actually bolted down, bolted bus bars, which is kind of cool to see. Usually we're seeing these being laser welded. And it has in the bottom, I'm trying to do this without shorting anything. And let me try this screwdriver. It has a thick layer of kind of rubber in the bottom. Yeah, it's like a rubber potting, which is what's holding the cells in. And then in between the cells, it does have a spacer. There's like a rubber, maybe like a 1/16 of an inch thick, or more actually. Decent construction. I don't know that I like the BMS just setting on right on top of the cells. There we go. I just pulled it up. There's a pad. There's a pad here that does have, it looks like it does have a fiber board embedded in it. So it's like a rubber pad on the cells, and then a fiber board, and then a rubber pad. Would have been nicer if that covered the whole side of the cells. And then there's little insulators between the cells that you can see. So they got some good insulation between the cells. So not terrible, but definitely not the best I've seen. It's got some, seems to have some good components. The cells themselves do have QR codes on them. So I wonder if I can like squeeze my tablet down in there. Alright, I think I got a snapshot. Well, that's the best I can get, and doesn't really look like any one that I really recognize, and the numbers still aren't very clear. And these cells being stuck in that goop down there, I can't really get them out. So I've got the charger back on it. Let's go ahead and test the low temperature protection. I know it's gonna work because this is a JBD BMS and it just works on these things. Well, let's try it anyway. Well, let's try this other one. Uh-oh, maybe it ain't gonna work. Let's Let's try both sensors together. Ooh, there it goes. So you heard the charger turn off. See if we can bring up the app. Restart the charge. And so you can pay attention to this right here. You'll see it go down to 0. There you go. So we have low temp protection as expected on a JBD BMS. All right, guys, so I think that's pretty much going to be it for the video. My thoughts on this battery. I do like the compactness of it. It is a small battery. And even though it's smaller than, you know, the size that we're used to, this typical size here, there's even room in there to, you know, they could even make it smaller, like an inch on each side, and at least an inch, pretty much an inch on each side, on 3 sides. They could make it smaller. So, but yeah, that's it. It's definitely, it's got a real nice BMS. The cells look pretty nice, even though I can't tell, I can't get a good picture of the QR code. It looks like legit QR codes, like, you know, it's like a decent cell company. Yeah, I don't know. What else can I say? So that's going to be it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.